Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today, we're listening to Most Disturbing Cases You've Never Heard. Anyway, anyway,
The voice you just heard belonged to
get it.
10-year-old Joseph McVeigh, affectionately known as Joey. On January 2nd, 2011, Joseph shot his 46-year-old mother, Deborah McVeigh, after a heated argument in their home located in Big Prairie, Holmes County, Ohio. When the police arrived at the scene, they discovered Deborah lying motionless on the living room floor, having suffered a single gunshot wound to the head. So what drove young Joseph to commit such an atrocious act? And above all, what secrets were hidden within the walls of the McVeigh household, waiting to be discovered? Big Prairie is an unincorporated community in Holmes County, Ohio, United States. Despite its name, it boasts a modest population of only 2,400 residents. From its tight-knit community to its idyllic landscapes, Big Prairie captures the essence of rural living in all its glory. According to statistics, the rate of violent crime in Big Prairie is 2.3 per thousand residents. But it was here in this peaceful setting that an unbelievable crime unfolded in 2011. But first, let's travel to Millersburg, Holmes County, the birthplace of Deborah McVeigh, who was born Deborah Mike. Born on November 2nd, 1964, Deborah was the daughter of Johnny Mike and Beulah Mike. While not much is known about her childhood, she had two brothers named Tony and Michael Todd and came from a large, close-knit family with uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews, and more. Deborah completed her high school education at North Marion High School in Farmington, West Virginia, graduating in 1983. She then pursued her passion for healthcare by attending nursing school. Afterward, Deborah worked as an independent home health aide, providing care in Wayne and Holmes counties. The specific details of how and when Deborah met her husband, Michael McVeigh, remain unknown. Nevertheless, they exchanged vows and officially tied the knot on November 4th, 1996. The McVeigh family had expanded. It included the presence of three children. Among them was Joshua David Mike, whose exact age remains unknown, along with their 15-year-old daughter, Shauna May McVeigh, and the youngest member, 10-year-old Joseph McVeigh. Together, they resided in a cozy one-story dwelling near Big Prairie in Holmes County, Ohio. The home had once been a garage that was then converted into a living space with three bedrooms. Adding to the sense of closeness, Deborah's mother, Beulah, lived just next door. According to those who knew Deborah at the time, she was described as someone who found happiness in simple pleasures, such as cooking delicious meals, embarking on camping adventures, and taking refreshing swims. Most of all, she treasured the precious time spent with her loved ones. Life seemed to be sailing smoothly for the family until an unforeseen tragedy disrupted their path. In December 2010, Deborah and her husband Michael went their separate ways. It was a challenging time for Deborah, as Michael had an outstanding warrant for failing to pay child support. Left to manage the household alone, Deborah found herself living in the house with her 15-year-old daughter, Shauna, and 10-year-old son, Joseph. The whereabouts of Joshua, her oldest child, remained unclear, but he wasn't residing with them at the time. January 2nd, 2011 was a seemingly calm Sunday evening. But then, the tranquility of Big Prairie was shattered by a series of alarming phone calls. At precisely 6:03 p.m., local deputies received a call from one of the McVeigh family's neighbors. 911, North Carolina, their kid just came down. I guess there's an emergency up at his house, and we have the cops up there and it's gone. The neighbor relayed an unthinkable situation. Joseph, the 10-year-old boy from next door, had sought refuge at their house, declaring that he just shot his own mother and that she was now lifeless. Joseph's voice echoed with urgency in the background, further confirming the devastating event. What happened, Billy? Okay. Moments later, another call came in, this time from Deborah's devastated mother, Beulah, who lived next door. Overwhelmed with grief, Beulah tearfully informed the operator that her daughter had just been shot in the head. She pleaded for immediate help. Deputies and emergency medical services personnel from Western Homes Fire District Lakeville and Nashville stations swiftly arrived at the McVeigh residence. Inside, they discovered Deborah lying motionless on the floor of the living area. She'd suffered a single gunshot wound to her head. Despite their best efforts, Deborah was pronounced dead at the scene. To shed light on the circumstances surrounding her untimely passing, her body was transported to the Stark County Coroner's Office for a thorough autopsy. Among the officers present at the scene were Deputy Stryker and Captain Ranker. They sought to understand the sequence of events that had unfolded. With measured steps, they approached Joseph, who sat with a hand supporting his chin, his gaze meeting theirs as they began their inquiry. The weight of the moment hung in the air as Joseph, with a mixture of remorse and resignation, confessed to the unspeakable act. He had shot his own mother. As part of their professional duty, the officers were compelled to delve deeper and understand the circumstances leading to this unimaginable outcome. As they probed Joseph's troubled mind, his voice held a hint of frustration as he revealed that his mother had provoked his anger day after day. In response to the pressing question of where he'd obtained the firearm, a .22 caliber rifle, Joseph admitted that he'd taken it from his own room. When police officers later checked Joseph's room, they found 6 weapons. On his bed was a .22 caliber rifle believed to be the weapon that had taken his mother's life. Beside it rested a 12-gauge shotgun, adding to the haunting display. And on the gun rack, there were 2 more .22 caliber rifles and 2 air rifles. These guns, as it turned out, belonged to Joseph himself, gifted to him by his father. They'd once belonged to Joseph's paternal grandfather. Now Beulah, Joseph's grandmother, who was also in the room at the time of Joseph's interrogation, said she and her daughter Deborah were on the phone prior to the shooting. She revealed that she'd heard a lot of screaming in the background while the call was ongoing. In the aftermath of the tragic incident, the police turned to Shauna, Joseph's sister, to gather crucial details about what had transpired. Shauna's account provided valuable insight, allowing the authorities to piece together the sequence of events. According to Shauna, who witnessed the horrifying ordeal, it all began when Deborah asked Joseph to bring in firewood from outside. However, a simple task quickly escalated into a heated argument, pushing Joseph to his breaking point. Overwhelmed by frustration, he expressed his exhaustion from the constant conflicts with their mother. In a moment of sheer rage, Joseph stormed off to his bedroom, emerging with one of the guns he possessed. Returning to the living room, Joseph aimed the gun at Deborah and fired. Shauna, frozen in fear, watched as her brother's gaze then turned towards her. Terrified for her own safety, Shauna pleaded with him not to harm her and asked for the chance to check on their mother. Joseph relented, setting the gun down before leaving the house. It was at this point that Joseph had then sought help from their neighbors. In a desperate plea, he confessed to them that he'd shot his mother and urgently needed an ambulance and the police. Continuing their investigation, the officers focused on understanding Joseph's motives behind the tragic act. In an audio recording of a separate interview conducted on the day of the murder, Joseph shed light on his state of mind and the catalyst that ignited his anger. When questioned about his reasons for being upset, Joseph revealed that his mother had called him lazy. He expressed his strong dislike for being labeled as such, and it became apparent that this seemingly trivial remark had triggered a cascade of emotions within him. This revelation by Joseph made officers wonder. They questioned if Joseph's motive was truly rooted in a child's desire to avoid a chore without grasping the consequences of his actions. It also made them consider if there were more hidden complexities and underlying tensions that had been building up in the days leading to the tragic shooting of his mother. As the investigation continued, officers turned to Shauna once again for more insights into the relationship between Joseph and their mother. During their conversation, Shauna revealed that tension had been brewing between Joseph and Deborah for quite some time. According to Shauna, the arguments she had with her mother were nothing compared to the intense conflicts that regularly took place between Joseph and their mother. The scale and intensity of their disagreements were significant, creating a strained dynamic within the family. Further interviews with family members also revealed distressing details about the household.
My mother was the best mother I could ask for. Anyone could ask for. I know my brother didn't mean to kill his mom.
Joseph's grandmother and others claimed that his mother, Deborah, subjected him to emotional and verbal abuse. Joseph's father, Michael, shared that there was unrest and toxicity within their home. He revealed that Deborah struggled with bipolar disorder, leading to mood swings that affected the entire family, including their children. Michael described instances where Deborah would frequently yell and scream at the kids, creating a hostile environment. Michael also revealed that in the weeks leading up to the shooting, before their separation, Deborah had allegedly grabbed him by the hair, attempting to force him out of the house. Investigators were also able to uncover that one of the most significant disagreements between Joseph's parents before their separation revolved around the guns that Michael had given to Joseph. Deborah strongly disapproved of a 10-year-old having access to firearms, while Michael supported it. Joseph's older brother Joshua would later mention during an interview with the media that their family had a country lifestyle, where owning guns was customary. All these accounts shed light on the troubled dynamics within the family, highlighting the toxic environment and different viewpoints on various issues. A closer look at Joseph's background also allowed investigators to unearth a trail of concerning incidents that hinted at his escalating anger and aggression. Their investigation revealed a previous encounter in December 2006 when Joseph had been disruptive on the school bus. This had prompted the bus driver to intervene by grabbing him by the jacket and firmly seating him. Following the incident, Deborah, Joseph's mother, had called the sheriff's office to report the driver's action. Although no charges were filed against the driver, it was a notable incident that hinted at Joseph's behavioral issues. Another troubling incident occurred in September 2007 when Joseph was just 6 years old. He lashed out at his elementary school principal, striking him in the face and chest with a dustpan. At the time this occurred, the principal had been escorting Joseph to the gymnasium for a timeout after he caused disruptions in class. The incident was reported to the sheriff's office as an unruly complaint, painting a concerning picture of Joseph's propensity for aggressive behavior. These prior episodes of anger and aggression, although not involving serious violence, were crucial findings for the investigators. They provided valuable insight into Joseph's troubled history and served as warning signs of the deeper issues at play. In addition to all these, investigators also found a connection between Joseph's increasing anger and the separation of his parents, Deborah and Michael. The strain caused by their separation seemed to have amplified Joseph's outbursts and behavioral issues. His anger had become more frequent, and his behavior become more troublesome. On January 3, 2011, the Holmes County Juvenile Court was filled with anticipation as Joseph, dressed in an orange jail jumpsuit and bound by shackles, stood before Juvenile Court Judge Thomas Lee. The air was heavy with emotions as family members and members of the media gathered from all corners of the region. Charged with the murder of his mother, Joseph pleaded not guilty to the charges, his defense attorney Andy Hyde speaking on his behalf. In court, Hyde emphasized that this was not a case of physical abuse, but rather a relentless emotional torment that had worn Joseph down. He revealed that Joseph had been subjected to daily belittlement, being told that his mother wanted him gone, never to be seen again, and that he was worthless. As the proceedings unfolded, Judge Lee decided to keep Joseph in the custody of the Richland County Juvenile Detention Facility in Mansfield. The ruling was made in consideration of Joseph's safety, the well-being of his family, and the overall community. Though Joseph remained silent during the court session, his attorney expressed his belief that the detention was a reasonable measure given the circumstances. As August 2011 rolled around, the legal proceedings surrounding Joseph took an unexpected turn. It was determined that he was not competent to stand trial, as he did not meet the necessary legal criteria. This decision came after Joseph underwent evaluations conducted by 2 psychologists, who concluded that he was mentally unfit to face trial for the tragic murder of his mother. According to their assessments, Joseph struggled with anxiety and depression, and his learning disability posed additional challenges. Talking about his mother's death proved to be particularly difficult for him, hindering effective communication with his defense attorneys. Both psychologists concurred that counseling would be beneficial for Joseph, hoping it could provide him with the support he needed. Joseph's journey through the legal system continued. He spent over a year confined to the Richland County Juvenile Detention Facility at Mansfield before getting transferred to a residential treatment facility. In August 2013, Judge Lee, presiding over the case, ordered that Joseph remain at the residential treatment facility. The judge believed that moving Joseph to a different institution would jeopardize the progress he made with his therapist. Considering Joseph's tumultuous upbringing, with parents who had criminal records and struggled with substance abuse, Judge Lee expressed his strong disapproval of allowing a child with impulse control issues access to a gun. He didn't shy away from describing Joseph's parenting as irresponsible. Meanwhile, Joseph's therapist, Jerry Hartman, praised the young boy's remarkable progress. Through their sessions, Joseph was working through the trauma he'd experienced, with the ultimate goal of helping him become a productive adult in the future. However, amidst Joseph's rehabilitation, his actions continued to haunt his sister, Shauna. Deeply hurt by what had transpired, she even sought the assistance of a victim advocate to express her desire for the judge to impose the harshest sentence possible. The wounds caused by Joseph's actions ran deep within the family, leaving Shauna with a profound sense of pain and betrayal. The current whereabouts of Joseph remain unknown. It's uncertain if he's still involved in the legal system or if he's been released. As we conclude this case, the details and complexities of Joseph's story leave us contemplating the nature of justice and rehabilitation. The tragic events that unfolded shed light on the interplay between upbringing, mental health, and personal responsibility. However, what do you think will become of Joseph, and how will his past experiences shape his future? On September 29, 1968, Wendy Jo Hallison, a 22-year-old art student, embarked on a routine errand that would tragically end her life. She drove her green Ford Thunderbird down Fairfax Avenue, stopping at a nearby store to purchase a hairdryer. Afterwards, she proceeded to a gas station to fill up her car. However, Wendy never made it back home. The following morning, her lifeless body was discovered in the trunk of her car, just a few blocks away from where she was last seen. The mystery surrounding her murder lingered for decades, with detectives and potential suspects unable to crack the case. But after 48 years, an unexpected breakthrough sent chills down everyone's spines. So, who was responsible for Wendy's untimely demise? What dark secrets and hidden motives led to her tragic end? Nestled in Southern California, with a population of roughly 3.9 million people, Los Angeles is an enchanting metropolis that captures the imagination with its fusion of glitz, glamour, and cultural diversity. From the iconic Hollywood sign to the lively boardwalk of Venice Beach, the city pulses with an irresistible energy. In every corner of the city, there lies an adventure waiting to be discovered by those who dare to dream big. And it's here our story begins. Wendy Jo Hallison was born on August 24, 1946, to parents Lee and Kathleen Hallison. She grew up alongside her older sister Linda in their family home, where they enjoyed painting and playing the piano. Wendy was known for her sociable nature and infectious smile. As the years passed by, she blossomed into a young woman brimming with dreams and aspirations. In 1968, at the tender age of 22, she embarked on a journey as an art student, attending classes at the San Fernando Valley State College, now known as Cal State Northridge. Amidst her pursuit of creativity, she continued to live with her parents at their home on Stearns Drive, south of Carthay Square. Wendy's loyal poodle, Pierre, was a cherished part of her life during this time. Life seemed to be a harmonious symphony for Wendy as she reveled in the warmth of her family and the pursuit of her passions. It appeared as though she had everything she could ever desire. But then something unexpected happened, and things took a dark turn. Wendy's phone call to her sister Linda on the afternoon of September 29, 1968, set a chain of events into motion. During the call, she shared the news of a newspaper ad she'd stumbled upon, a hairdryer on sale at a store, Thrifty. Eager to include Linda in her adventure to purchase the item, Wendy asked if she'd like to accompany her. Linda, who was then a devoted wife and mother of 2 young boys, listened intently to her sister's enthusiastic voice on the other end of the line. Despite the tempting offer, she hesitated, torn between the desire to seize this opportunity and the longing to spend a day with her family. Ultimately, her maternal instincts prevailed, and she declined Wendy's invitation. Undeterred by Linda's absence, Wendy got into her green Ford Thunderbird and drove down the bustling Fairfax Avenue. Finally, her car glided to a halt at the corner of Wilshire Boulevard, where Thrifty stood, its doors beckoning her. Inside, Wendy perused the aisles before purchasing the hairdryer. Satisfied, she left the store. The day continued to unfold, leading Wendy to a nearby gas station where she pulled up to refill her vehicle. That was the last time anyone saw Wendy alive. She never returned home to her family. As the sun began to set over the Hallison family home, an unsettling silence settled in. Wendy's absence lingered, causing a ripple of worry to course through her family's hearts. It was an unusual occurrence for Wendy not to check in. Linda was plagued with regrets as she wished she'd accompanied Wendy to the store.
Okay,
As the
kids,
night
I have
wore
no
on,
room.
Wendy's mother, Kathleen, resolved to take
Off.
action. She dialed the
Come on,
police, her
everybody's
voice
gonna get
trembling
off.
with fear as she
Come on.
reported her daughter missing. But
Off.
to her dismay, the authorities informed her
Off.
that a missing persons case couldn't be
Come
initiated
on,
so
Lulu.
swiftly.
Off.
Refusing
Come
to
on.
succumb to helplessness,
Come
the
on.
Allison family banded together,
No, you
determined
stay
to
on.
find Wendy.
Come on, Lulu.
Gil Court, who was Linda's husband and also happened to be a private
Lulu.
investigator, helped organize a search party.
On the floor. Don't
The
you come
morning of
near
September
me.
30th, 1968
Did I
arrived,
tell you to get
carrying
in
with
that
it a
damn
renewed
chair?
sense of purpose.
Okay, Lulu,
Gil,
come on.
unwavering in his commitment, went to
Come on,
great
Lulu.
lengths. He enlisted the aid of a helicopter
Or,
to search the neighborhood from above.
or,
Wendy's boyfriend, his heart heavy with worry, also joined the search party. The search for Wendy soon commenced. Every possible route was examined, the searchers' eyes scanning for any sign of her bright green Ford Thunderbird. Within an hour of searching, Wendy's boyfriend spotted her Thunderbird parked on Fairfax Avenue from the helicopter. Without wasting a moment, Gil descended upon the parked car. As he peered through the window, a chilling realization swept over him. Wendy was nowhere to be found. However, he saw the car keys lying abandoned on the floor of the back seat. Driven by a gut feeling, Gil snatched up the keys from their resting place. With trembling hands, he unlocked the trunk, his breath catching in his throat. There, in that confined space, lay Wendy's lifeless body. It was a sight that would be forever seared into his memory. It was the worst day of my life, Gil recalled. The discovery sent shockwaves through the search party, their hopes dashed against the jagged rocks of reality. The unimaginable had become their truth. As detectives arrived at the grim scene, their seasoned eyes meticulously examined every detail. One thing stood out. Wendy's jewelry and watch remained adorned on her lifeless form, effectively ruling out robbery as the motive behind her untimely demise. Oddly enough, the only item missing was the very hairdryer she'd set out to purchase. Further examination unveiled a chilling narrative. Wendy had endured a violation before her life was cruelly extinguished. The detectives also discovered a rope nearby, its presence suggesting a sinister role in her demise. Their gaze then shifted to her fingers, and they noticed that she had broken nails. Due to this, they believed she'd put up a fight against the assailant who took her life. News of Wendy's demise shattered her family's world. Devastation consumed them as they struggled to comprehend the
stay
tragedy.
down that way.
The question hung heavy in their hearts. Who could have done such an evil deed? The detectives, driven by the desire for justice, vowed to unmask the heartless perpetrator behind Wendy's
Don't come
tragic
any
end.
closer.
They strived to bring solace to her grieving family and ensure that no stone remained unturned in their pursuit of truth. As the investigation unfolded, a web of suspicion began to entangle those who were close to Wendy. Detectives honed in on 4 men who held intricate ties to her life. Among them were her devoted boyfriend, an ex-boyfriend with whom she maintained a cordial friendship, an unidentified friend, and lastly, her brother-in-law, Gil. The detectives' attention was fixated on Wendy's boyfriend especially. They couldn't help but wonder how he'd easily spotted her parked car from the helicopter, as if he knew exactly where to look before they'd even narrowed down the search area. It perplexed them. Even the pilot was amazed at his ability to see the car from up in the sky. As doubts grew, Wendy's boyfriend faced further scrutiny when he failed a lie detector test, deepening suspicions surrounding him. In contrast, Gil, Wendy's brother-in-law, remained cooperative throughout the investigation. When asked to undergo a polygraph test alongside the others, Gil willingly agreed, and the focus shifted towards other potential suspects. Now, while Wendy's boyfriend failed the polygraph test, there was no evidence to show that he was involved in her death. Days soon turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. It was as if time itself conspired to guard the secrets within its relentless passage. Helplessly, the case grew colder, its flames of justice flickering in the wind. 3 decades later, in 1998, a new chapter unfolded in Wendy's case. It was reopened, and Harry Clan Jr., a criminalist with the LAPD, was called upon by Detective Frank Boland to re-examine the evidence. At the time, DNA analysis was still in its early stages, with the LAPD having only 4 years of experience in this groundbreaking forensic technique. A glimmer of hope emerged when traces of bodily fluids were discovered on Wendy's pants and underwear. Eager to pursue any lead, the detectives decided to analyze the DNA in the hopes of unearthing a fresh trail. To their astonishment, the analysis unveiled a significant breakthrough, a DNA sample that belonged to the suspected killer. Excitement filled the air as the investigators dove headfirst into their mission, drawing blood samples from each of the 4 men initially questioned in connection with Wendy's tragic death. The objective was clear: to compare their DNA against that of the suspected killer. Yet, as the results were unveiled, disappointment washed over them. The tests conclusively eliminated all 4 men as suspects, leaving the detectives back at square one. The DNA sample of the suspected killer was also too minuscule to compare against state and national databases. Frustration permeated the air as detectives grappled with the limitations imposed by the scarce evidence. Meanwhile, Wendy's family's world lay in ruins. They bore the weight of immeasurable pain, haunted by the uncertainty of whether her killer would ever face justice. The family left Wendy's room untouched, a painful reminder of the void left by her absence. Wendy's father, Lee, felt the depths of her loss most profoundly. Her birthday coincided with his own, magnifying the sorrow that loomed over every celebration. Lee made regular visits to the police station, driven by a determination to uncover any new developments. Each time he was met with disheartening news, yet he persisted, hoping for a breakthrough, especially in the advancements in technology that held promise for the future. The passage of time weighed heavy on the Hallison family, but their resilience remained unyielding, and they clung to the tiniest glimmer of hope that remained. Fast forward to 2016, and the collective efforts of 3 individuals breathed new life into Wendy's case. Harry Clan, a seasoned criminalist, teamed up with Richard Bankston, a relentless cold case detective, and Peter Berman, a former deputy district attorney. Together, they formed an unstoppable force, driven by a shared mission to provide Wendy's family with the closure they so desperately craved. However, Bankston harbored a deep-rooted aversion to the notion of closure. To him, it was an unacceptable concept, for he vowed to keep the doors of investigation open as long as there remained even the slightest glimmer of possibility. These 3 determined souls poured their hearts and minds into the case, pushing beyond their limits to uncover the truth that had eluded so many for far too long. They combed through every piece of evidence as they relentlessly pursued justice for Wendy and her grieving family. In the summer of that same year, Clan took on the task of running the suspect's DNA sample through advanced technology. This was the hope that it would yield the crucial markers necessary to upload the sample into the state system. Work began immediately, and after weeks of anticipation, there was finally a breakthrough. Filled with excitement and a sense of urgency, Clan swiftly reached out to Bankston to inform him of the new development. The match they discovered bore a name that would forever change the course of the investigation. The name was Edwin Dean Richardson. The detectives soon embarked on an exploration of Edwin's past, and what they uncovered was disturbing. They were confronted with an alarming truth. Edwin had an extensive criminal record that stretched back to his childhood. He was a perpetual drifter, moving from place to place and surviving on odd jobs while leaving a trail of mischief in his wake. Their investigation delved deeper, revealing a significant event in 1960 that cast a dark shadow over Edwin's history. He'd been convicted of attempted robbery and kidnapping in San Diego, resulting in a lengthy sentence of 8 years behind bars. However, fate intervened in April 1968 when Edwin was granted parole, offering him a taste of freedom after years of confinement. Little did anyone suspect that this newfound liberty would intertwine with the tragic events surrounding Wendy's death a mere 5 months later. Edwin's criminal spree did not end after his release from prison. Tom McCourt, a dedicated sheriff with 2 decades of experience in Belmont County, vividly remembered the relentless pursuit of Edwin, who fled the town after cruelly killing a 21-year-old woman named Joanna Bowner in the late 1970s. The crime had shaken Belmont County, a community defined by its steel and coal industries. Undeterred by Edwin's escape, McCourt tirelessly searched for him for over 3 years. Finally, a discarded phone bill found in the trash provided the breakthrough McCourt needed. With this, he was able to trace Edwin's whereabouts to a trailer park in Mesa, Arizona. It was there, in the sweltering heat of the desert, that Edwin was apprehended for the death of Joanna. During their journey back to Ohio, Edwin's true nature was revealed. With a disturbing lack of remorse, he bragged about another innocent life he'd extinguished. He described how he'd wrapped the victim's body in a blanket and disposed of it over a cliff. In 1981, Edward was incarcerated in an Ohio prison, this time for the murder of Joanna. But his crimes didn't stop there. He was also convicted of kidnapping 2 girls in West Virginia, solidifying his reputation as a heartless predator. Fast forward to 2006. A breakthrough in DNA technology brought Edwin's crimes to light once again. Authorities were able to successfully match his DNA to a cold case murder in Orange County. Despite being already incarcerated, Edwin was transported to California to face trial for the vicious assault and death of a 23-year-old woman named Marla Jean Hires in 1972. Marla's lifeless body, battered and wrapped in a cloth, had been found discarded down an embankment near the Yorba Linda Country Club. It was an eerie reminder of the chilling details Edwin had boasted about from years ago. By the time Edwin was on trial as regards Marla's case, he was 70 years old and burdened with emphysema, a debilitating lung condition that caused him to be constantly breathless and added to his deteriorating physical state. He was ultimately handed a life sentence, effectively ensuring that he would spend the remainder of his days confined behind prison bars. With this final conviction, justice prevailed for Marla Jean Hires and the countless other victims who had suffered at Edwin's hands. In 2013, at the age of 77, Edwin breathed his last breath behind prison walls. This revelation posed a significant hurdle to the investigative team working on Wendy's case. They realized that they could no longer hold him accountable for Wendy's tragic demise. They were robbed of the opportunity to directly question him in prison or extract a sample of his DNA to definitively link him to Wendy's case. Nevertheless, they refused to let his death be the end of the pursuit of justice. They turned their attention to a blood sample collected during the Orange County investigation, which had been positively identified as Edwin's. They believed this piece of evidence held the key in connecting Edwin to Wendy's case once and for all. Through analysis, they compared the DNA from Wendy's case to the blood sample, and it was a match. Amidst the revelations of Edwin's heinous acts, an intriguing pattern emerged. Detectives discovered that Edwin's victims shared many similarities. They were all young and attractive brunettes who were alone when they were abducted. It seemed that Edwin targeted women who were about to enter their cars, using some type of weapon to coerce them into the passenger seat. Each woman was abused, strangled, and their cars were abandoned. As the detectives painstakingly pieced together the puzzle of his crimes, a haunting question loomed in their minds. How many other victims had fallen prey to this twisted individual? The chilling realization was that there may be countless unknown victims. With the newfound confidence that Edwin was Wendy's killer, detectives soon reached out to her sister, Linda, to share the breakthrough. In August 2017, Linda made her way to the police station, wearing her sister's necklace as a heartfelt tribute. The weight of the past hung in the air as she entered the room. There, the detectives presented her with a collection of items recovered from Wendy's car, aged and worn by the passage of time. Yet, despite the years that had slipped away, Linda and her family were profoundly grateful for the unwavering dedication of the authorities. The journey to uncover the truth had been a challenging one, but at last, the closure they'd longed for was granted. As the curtains draw to a close on Wendy's case, a chapter of mystery and pain is finally sealed. Through years of tireless investigation, relentless pursuit of justice, and the advent of advanced forensic technology, the truth has emerged from the shadows. While the identification and conviction of Edward Dean Richardson offer a measure of solace, the scars left behind by his actions run deep. The disturbing pattern of Edwin's victims, his method of abduction, assault, and murder, leaves us pondering the motives behind his actions. What factors do you think contributed to his twisted mindset and his disregard for human life? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. On the evening of January 27, 2008, in the town of Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, 12-year-old Carissa Paige Boudreau disappeared under mysterious circumstances. It was believed that she'd run away after an argument with her mother, Penny Boudreau, during a trip to a local supermarket. The investigation took a surprising turn, and the community was left in shock at what was unraveled. So what led to Carissa's untimely death? What really happened that fateful day? Bridgewater is a coastal town in Nova Scotia, Canada, that's nestled along the Lahava River. With a population of more than 8,000 people, it's the largest town in the South Shore region. While Bridgewater is known more as a center of commerce and industry, it does offer a number of cultural events. These include the annual Bridgewater Garden Party, Christmas on the Hub, and the Growing Green Sustainability Festival. Amidst the bustling activities and peaceful surroundings, an unfortunate incident occurred. A crime that shook the peaceful atmosphere of this small town. Carissa Page Bridgewater was born on the 4th of October 1995 in Yarmouth County, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Come on.
Her parents were Penny and Claude Woodrow. Carissa was known for being friendly and always having a bright smile on her face.
Oh.
She found solace and joy in the little pleasures of life. She loved playing games on her Nintendo DS, swimming, collecting stuffed animals, reading books, and listening to music by the Spice Girls, Miley Cyrus, and Hilary Duff. But there was one dream that burned bright within Carissa's heart. She often spoke passionately about her desire to become a veterinarian, dedicating her life to caring for and healing the furry and feathery creatures. As the pages of Carissa's life turned, the path ahead took an unexpected turn. At some point, circumstances led to her parents' separation. Yet, despite this change, Carissa was fortunate enough to continue enjoying the affection of both her parents. For a period of time, Carissa found herself temporarily residing with her father in Shelburne County. However, by early 2008, she settled fully with her mother, Penny, in her 2-bedroom apartment in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. At the time, Penny had a boyfriend named Vernon McCumber, who also lived with them in their apartment. In her new environment, Carissa started attending Bridgewater Elementary School as a 6th grade student. Life seemed to be going smoothly for Carissa and her family. However, destiny, with its mischievous grin, had other plans in store. On a chilly January evening, the 27th of January 2008 to be exact, a mother's heart sank as she dialed the Bridgewater Police Department. That mother was Penny, and she had a distressing revelation to share. Her 12-year-old daughter Carissa was missing. It all started earlier that day when Penny and Carissa had a heated argument. At around 5:30 p.m., they found themselves parked outside the Bridgewater Mall. In the midst of their disagreement, Carissa decided to stay in the car while Penny went into the Sobeys store located within the mall to pick up a few things. After approximately 15 minutes, she returned to the car. However, to her dismay, Carissa was no longer there. She immediately began searching the area, hoping to find her daughter nearby. As the minutes turned into an hour, the realization sank in that Carissa was nowhere to be found. With a heavy heart and a growing sense of dread, Penny returned home, desperately hoping that Carissa would soon reappear. However, as the clock neared 8:30 p.m. and there was still no sign of her daughter, Penny made the difficult decision to contact the police. In the aftermath of the distressing phone call, the search for Carissa sprang into action. Police and family members banded together, determined to locate her. They conducted thorough searches and even employed the help of a rescue dog. The night was filled with worry, as everyone anxiously awaited any leads or information that would bring Carissa home. The town of Bridgewater held its breath, hoping for a resolution to the mystery, and a family clung to hope, longing for Carissa's safe return. However, all search efforts that day yielded no success, leaving investigators with a disheartening realization. It appeared that Carissa had run away. One aspect that troubled the police was the fact that Carissa was ill-prepared for the harsh weather conditions at the time of her disappearance. Clad in a black hoodie, a black vest, and blue jeans, she was not dressed appropriately for the biting cold that gripped the area. The morning of January 28, 2008 arrived with a sense of urgency. The officers of the Bridgewater Police Department recognized the gravity of the situation and took decisive action. They reached out to other police services, spreading the word far and wide in their relentless search for Carissa. The quest for answers soon became a public affair. Investigators thoroughly examined surveillance tapes from businesses around the Bridgewater Mall, and these offered glimpses into the moments leading up to Carissa's disappearance. They pieced together the account provided by Carissa's mother, Penny, confirming that she had indeed been in the Sobeys as she'd reported. However, a disheartening reality emerged. There were no surveillance cameras in the mall's parking lot. Without this, they were unable to confirm if Carissa had been present or which direction she might have taken, should she have left the area. The absence of this concrete evidence posed a challenge, but it only fueled the investigators' determination. They remained resolute, unwilling to give up on the search for Carissa. The dawn of January 29, 2008 brought forth a critical development in the search for Carissa. Penny, Carissa's mother, took center stage in a press conference, her eyes welled up with tears, her voice quivering with emotion. With raw vulnerability, she pleaded for her daughter's safe return, urging Carissa to make contact and let them know she was okay.
I don't know what to say. I hope she wasn't. I don't know maybe. We all love you. We all love Carissa. We love you. Your grandparents are looking for you. All of us are. I don't know where you are, but just come home or call or something, please. All your friends are looking for you, and we're all worried. We just want you home safe. It's not like we're going to get mad. We just want you home safe. Please.
During the press conference, Penny shared more details about the day Carissa disappeared. She revealed that she had taken Carissa for a drive, hoping for a heart-to-heart conversation to address some underlying issues. Penny disclosed that Carissa had been unhappy with their current living situation and struggled to make friends since their move to Bridgewater. Unfortunately, their conversation took an unfortunate turn, escalating into an argument over seemingly trivial matters. In attendance at the press conference was also Paul, Carissa's father, his presence symbolizing the united front of a desperate family. With a heavy heart, he joined Penny in making a plea to his daughter, urging her to come home. Their emotional appeal resonated deeply, touching the hearts of not only those present in the room, but also the wider community. As darkness settled on the day of the emotionally charged press conference, a glimmer of hope emerged. A tip had reached the ears of the officers, a piece of information that held the potential to bring them closer to Carissa. Though the details of the tips aren't known, its significance was undeniable. With a renewed sense of purpose, the Lunenburg County Ground Search and Rescue Team sprang into action. Guided by the tip, their footsteps led them to William Hebb Road in Hebbville. The night air was heavy with anticipation as they combed the area, their eyes scanning every inch of the area. 4 hours later, their efforts had turned up nothing. As the search for that day came to a close, a profound sense of disappointment mingled with their unwavering resolve. Meanwhile, the community was also playing its own part in the search for Carissa. Concerned parents joined forces, utilizing social media platforms to raise awareness and share information about her disappearance. Their efforts created a network of support, providing a platform for individuals to come together and offer assistance to Carissa's mother, Penny. Donations poured in, demonstrating the community's commitment to helping in any way possible. Throughout Bridgewater and beyond, missing person posters featuring Carissa's photos were prominently displayed. They served as a constant reminder of her absence, urging anyone with information to step forward. On January 31st, 2008, 2 police officers conducted an extensive search in various locations. Using a Department of Natural Resources helicopter, they scoured the La Have River, the Bridgewater Mall, and the wooded areas surrounding the town. Despite their thorough search, no evidence pertaining to Carissa's disappearance was found. On February 1st, 2008, the stage was set for another press conference. Penny, Carissa's mother, took center stage once again, her voice filled with a mix of despair and determination.
I'm just here to reach out to my daughter, Carissa. I just want to tell you that there's lots of people who love you and want you home. Your Aunt April is here, your mom is here, your dad, Shane, Vernon, your Uncle Joey, your Aunt Kristen, your friend Sarah's birthday, everybody at school, your grandmothers, everybody. Please just reach out to someone. At least call us. I know you're okay. We all love you. If there's anybody other than knows has seen her or anything, please call. The other thing I want to say is I want to thank everyone in the community that's going to support all the businesses we both work for and the community in general. It's been very comforting. Nothing can be done to make things better, but it's comforting to have support. The main thing is I just want somebody to come forward. If not Chris herself, somebody, let me know. It's hard to not know where your kid is.
Through tear-filled eyes, she made another heartfelt plea, her words echoing the anguish of a parent longing for her child's safe return. She expressed the indescribable pain of not knowing where her daughter was. Alongside Penny, the police stood, a steadfast presence in their commitment to finding Carissa. They addressed the public, emphasizing that, so far, there is no evidence pointing to any harm coming to Carissa. The words offered a glimmer of hope amid a sea of uncertainties. In the days following the press conference, the search for Carissa escalated. Divers braved the icy waters of the La Have River, combing the area behind the Bridgewater Mall and downstream to Shipyards Landing. By February 6, 2008, their search was complete, and the police announced that they were confident Carissa was not in the river. The police continued their relentless pursuit of leads on February 7, 2008. Tips poured in from across the Maritimes, with possible sightings of Carissa reported. Each lead was thoroughly investigated as the community held on to hope for a breakthrough. However, despite their tireless efforts, Carissa remained elusive. On February 9, 2008, a twist of fate unfolded. A motorist passing through the area stumbled upon a chilling discovery. Partially covered in snow on the bank of the Le Havre River, just outside the confines of Bridgewater town limits in Conquerall Bay, lay a lifeless body. The time was approximately 11:30 a.m. News of the discovery spread like wildfire, and soon forensic investigators descended upon the scene. Meanwhile, the police made a call to Carissa's family, informing them of the heartbreaking news that human remains had been found. However, they held back on releasing further details to the public, leaving many questions unanswered. The following day, February 10, 2008, the police cautiously confirmed that the recovered body belonged to a young white female. However, they emphasized that an identification would only come after the completion of an autopsy. Amid this emotional roller coaster, dozens of people gathered at the Sobeys parking lot for a prayer vigil dedicated to Carissa. They stood together, uncertain of whether the remains belonged to their beloved Carissa. However, in the days that followed, the truth unraveled. Through examination of dental records, the body found along the riverbank was conclusively identified as Carissa. An autopsy on February 13, 2008, revealed something disturbing. She had been strangled. There was some relief that no signs of abuse were found. At the same time, this also perplexed investigators, especially given the disturbing detail that her jeans and underwear had been pulled down when she was discovered. On February 14, 2008, the police held a press conference to confirm to the public that the body belonged to Carissa, turning the missing person case into a homicide investigation. The community was left stunned by this revelation, as her tragic murder marked the first in Bridgewater in almost 20 years. That very day, 3 residents of Bridgewater were taken into custody for questioning, causing a stir in the town. Though the police remained tight-lipped about their identities, they emphasized that the murder was not a random act and suggested that Carissa had some connection to her killer. Yet by the next day, the tension escalated as the news broke that all 3 individuals arrested had been released without any charges filed against them. On February 16, 2008, the Nova Scotia Medical Examiner's Office released Carissa's body to her father, Paul Boudreau. In a touch and display of remembrance, the place where Carissa was found became a heartfelt memorial. Mourners paid their respects by leaving countless trinkets, toys, and flowers, honoring the life that was lost. On February 19, 2008, grief filled the air as hundreds of people gathered in Shelburne County to bid farewell to Carissa. This small town was where her father and grandparents still resided. The solemn funeral service was led by Reverend Perry Ingersoll. During the service, a slideshow capturing the precious moments Carissa had shared with her loved ones was shown, as tears streamed down the faces of those present. 2 of Carissa's aunts stepped forward to read poems, offering solace and words of comfort to the grieving crowd. When all was said and done, Carissa was finally laid to rest in the cemetery in Clark's Harbor. 4 days later, on February 23, 2008, Bridgewater came together to mourn Carissa at a heartfelt memorial service organized by 9 churches. The town had embraced her as their own, considering her Bridgewater's daughter. Following her daughter's funeral, Penny relocated to Halifax, a city situated about 80 kilometers away from Bridgewater. She made the move, perhaps seeking a fresh start in a different place. In the aftermath of all these, investigators dedicated themselves to the relentless pursuit of justice. Weeks passed by in a blur as they sifted through every piece of evidence, tirelessly following up on leads and tips that poured in from the community. Determined to bring closure to this tragic case, they worked around the clock, driven by a shared sense of duty to find the person responsible for ending Carissa's life. The local coffee shops buzzed with discussions about the crime, as concerned individuals sought answers and solace in shared conversations. Now, as the investigation unfolded, a troubling possibility began to emerge. Investigators started to harbor suspicions that Penny, Carissa's own mother, may have been involved in her daughter's tragic death. These concerns were heightened by reports from neighbors who described a disturbing incident that occurred in Penny's apartment just days after Carissa's body was discovered. According to witnesses, there was a heated exchange between Penny and her boyfriend, Vernon, inside the apartment. The neighbors could hear their voices escalating, accompanied by the sound of running water. It seemed that Penny was in the bathtub while Vernon expressed his refusal to help her with something. Their argument echoed through the walls, with Vernon repeatedly questioning Penny, expressing his disgust, and threatening to leave her. The exact details of their conversation remained unclear, but these events raised serious red flags for the investigators. Due to these concerning developments, the investigators turned their focus towards Penny and Vernon. The once tragic case now took a chilling turn, as the investigation began exploring the complexities of family dynamics and the secrets that lay hidden behind closed doors. In a strategic move, undercover agents infiltrated Vernon's life, masquerading as members of a notorious crime syndicate. Gaining his trust, they engaged in conversations about Carissa's murder. Vernon denied any involvement in the crime. However, he confided in them about his suspicions regarding Penny's potential role. He admitted that he was keeping a close eye on her to protect himself from any potential implication in the crime. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the investigation. As investigators turned their focus to Penny, a chilling revelation awaited them. Undercover officers, just like in Vernon's case, assumed the role of crime syndicate members and approached Penny. They promised her assistance if she would admit to the unimaginable, the murder of her own daughter and the details surrounding it. Shockingly, in June of 2008, Penny fell into their trap. Unaware of the hidden cameras capturing every word, she confessed to a crime that would send shivers down anyone's spine. In her chilling admission, Penny recounted the events of that fateful evening. She revealed that she and Carissa had driven to a local grocery store, where she first made a call to Vernon, fabricating a story about Carissa's disappearance. Deceiving her innocent daughter, Penny then drove her to a desolate road and coldly ordered her to step out of the car. It was there, in the darkness and isolation, that Penny's true nature emerged. With a heart filled with darkness, Penny forcefully pushed Carissa to the ground. She took a piece of twine and she wrapped this tightly around Carissa's neck. She then mercilessly choked the life out of her own flesh and blood. In a haunting moment, Carissa pleaded, "Mommy, don't." But Penny remained deaf to her desperate cries. After taking Carissa's life, Penny placed her body in the trunk of the car and drove around, contemplating her next steps. She discarded the twine at a coffee house before disposing of Carissa's body near the Issy-La Have River. Penny also removed some of Carissa's clothing to create the appearance of abuse. She later discarded these items along with one of Carissa's sandals in a garbage can at a local swimming pool. When questioned about her motive for killing her own daughter, Penny revealed a shocking truth. She confessed that her boyfriend, Vernon, had issued her an ultimatum, forcing her to choose between him and her daughter. In a twisted display of devotion, Penny admitted that she would do anything to keep Vernon by her side. The thought of losing him was more unbearable to her than the unimaginable act of taking her own child's life. The depths of Penny's motivation for the crime were truly disturbing, highlighting the lengths she was willing to go for the sake of her relationship. On June 14, 2008, Penny was taken into custody and formally charged with the first-degree murder of her own daughter. The news of the arrest spread like wildfire, leaving residents stunned and struggling to comprehend the horrifying reality. Among those deeply affected was Carissa's father, Paul, who was devastated to learn that Penny had known the truth about their daughter's fate all along. The weight of the betrayal and the loss weighed heavily on him as he tried to come to terms with the unfathomable actions of the woman he once loved. Meanwhile, in the wake of Penny's arrest, Vernon was interviewed by authorities. He vehemently denied ever giving Penny an ultimatum, refuting her claim and maintaining his innocence. Instead, he explained that he'd expressed concerns about the incessant arguing between Penny and Carissa, suggesting that something needed to be done to address the escalating tension. Vernon professed that he had no inkling of the dark path Penny would ultimately take. On June 16, 2008, Penny made her first court appearance. Clutching a tissue in her trembling hands, she wept uncontrollably, unable to utter a word as the murder charge was read aloud. The room was heavy with a collective grief and disbelief surrounding the tragic loss of young Carissa. As Penny was escorted out of the courthouse, a crowd had gathered outside, their emotions running high. Taunts of child killer and murderer filled the air. On December 4, 2008, Penny found herself in Bridgewater courtroom. An air of tension filled the room as she sat, rocking back and forth. Lawyers engaged in discussions about the upcoming court proceedings, determining dates for future appearances. Ultimately, the court set her next appearance for January 30, 2009, leaving Penny with a daunting wait until she would face the full weight of the legal process once more. On January 30th, 2009, the courtroom was filled with tense anticipation as Penny entered her plea of guilty to the reduced charge of second-degree murder. The decision to accept the plea deal was made to avoid a lengthy trial. Dressed in a black t-shirt and jeans, Penny wept uncontrollably throughout the entire hearing. During the proceedings, Carissa's father, Paul, shared a victim impact statement, his words resonating with profound grief. He wrote of how his happiness had been shattered, his hopes and dreams obliterated by a single selfish act.
You know, for a parent to just make that decision, I still can't comprehend it. She had many options, and there's many people around her that would have gladly, you know, had I known this was going to happen, I would never ever let her go back. But what parents going to charge you? Now say, no, you can't go back and see your mother.
As the moment for sentencing arrived, Justice Margaret Stewart, the presiding judge, cast a glance at Penny and uttered words that pierced through the courtroom's heavy atmosphere. "You can never call yourself a mother," she stated firmly. Finally, the sentence was delivered. Penny was condemned to spend the rest of her life behind bars, with no possibility of parole for 20 years from the date of her arrest. As the weight of her punishment settled upon her, Penny rose briefly to address the court, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry," she whispered. As Paul stepped outside the courtroom, his emotions still raw from the proceedings, he couldn't help but express his profound frustration and disbelief. He spoke with a mix of anger and sadness, accusing Penny of shedding nothing but crocodile tears over the loss of their daughter. Paul also couldn't help but question Penny's choices. He wondered why she didn't consider the option of allowing their daughter to live with him or another caring family member. In the aftermath, Vernon expressed his deep sorrow over Carissa's death in an interview. He shared how much she meant to him and the immense guilt he felt for not being able to protect her. Vernon also mentioned the difficulties he faced in finding employment due to his association with the case, which led him down a path of drinking.
Have a terrible thing like this happen. You know, it just was hard on me. People thought I'd done something, and I had to live with that. You know, even with work, I had to leave Bridgewater because people had their opinions about me. And I had it affected me trying to get a job as well down here. You know, every time I applied for a place or something, they knew about what went on, and they had their own decision with that, right? So I had a hard time getting work as well.
Meanwhile, Paul was determined to move forward and not let the tragic loss of his daughter define his life. Visiting Bridgewater, where the crime occurred, was initially overwhelming for him due to anxiety. "I had so much anxiety that I couldn't even pull in the exit," Paul said. However, over time, he managed to overcome his fears and rebuild his life in Shelburne. He found love and companionship with a woman named Kim, and together they cherished the memory of Carissa. Paul made sure the daughter they had together, Carmi, knew about her deceased older sister. The case of Carissa's murder serves as a reminder of the depths of human darkness and the complexities of human relationships. It prompts us to reflect on the importance of nurturing and protecting the vulnerable, and the consequences of choices driven by misplaced priorities or desperation. As we close this chapter, one question lingers. If the police had not employed strategic measures to uncover the truth, do you believe Penny would have ever eventually confessed to the act of taking her own daughter's life? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Stay safe and